Hi, my name is Gwyneth Ralston, and I am going to answer first number 1 on Aristotle's virtue ethics. So the center goal of Aristotle's virtue ethics is for people to foster and develop virtuosity in their character, all while striving for the good life. Aristotle emphasizes that morality is not a naturally occurring characteristic, meaning that we are responsible for learning and practicing morality daily. Some people object to Aristotle's teachings for countless reasons, but one significant objection to Aristotle's controversial beliefs surrounding the development of morality is that, along with learning morality, only someone with the privilege of leisure time to reflect and work on their morality could reach the good life, which discounts the ability of people like slaves who have no control or ownership over themselves, let alone their time, to be moral beings in the same right as anyone else. There are 3 critical factors in Aristotle's virtue ethics that make up the end goal, the good life, also known as eudaimonia. Eudaimonia is the ancient Greek word for human excellence, but requires one to have arete and phronesis. Arete is the withstanding morals and virtuosity of a person's character, and phronesis is practical wisdom which is necessary to help one use the virtues every day. So Aristotle's requirements for reaching the good life must combine using practical wisdom to assist the deep-seated moral character of a person. And one of Aristotle's most well-known theories within virtue ethics is often referred to as the golden mean. To understand the golden mean, we must first examine Aristotle's teaching on how vices and virtues interact and coexist. Just like virtues, vices are not innate. They are learned and become habits. Aristotle says that virtue is the middle ground, or the golden mean, between 2 vices, one of excess and the other of deficiency. To demonstrate this theory, I will use the virtue of modesty. The virtue of modesty is the goal, but it is settled between the 2 extreme and opposite vices of modesty. Too much modesty makes you ashamed, and too little modesty makes you shameless. So leading a virtuous life daily is difficult, but still we have to learn through practice how to find the balance between too much or too little of a virtue in order to reach the end goal, eudaimonia. And again, some people disagree with Aristotle's insistence that morality must be taught and learned because it falls short regarding accurate action guidance in the learning process, since Aristotle does not specify how best to build deep-rooted moral character. He does offer examples of the type of person whose moral character is so strong and genuine that they are a model of how to live virtuously, which Aristotle calls the moral exemplar. However, this is not a foolproof system at all, because there is also what Aristotle calls a continent person, who appears to be a moral exemplar, but really they are just going through the motions of being moral. But there is no enjoyment in being an ethical person for the sake of ethics, and given a chance, that person might choose to do the wrong thing over the right thing. And so if a continent person is mistaken for a moral exemplar and is glorified, that would be like the blind leading the blind, because they are not a true example of a moral person. Through all of these aforementioned details of Aristotelian virtue ethics, the main takeaway is that virtues and vices are at the center of human morality, where we have to find a balance, and to reach the highest good, the highest moral good, the good life, or eudaimonia, we first need arete and phronesis, and all of these things only come from daily learning and practice. I will now answer number 3 concerning John Locke and Thomas Hobbes' social contract theory. So the social contract theory is the idea that morality is essentially a social contract. It aims to explore the inner workings of authoritative, governmental, and individual rights in societies. So in this essay, I will focus on Thomas Hobbes and John Locke, 2 17th century English philosophers who contributed significantly to the social contract theory, but in different ways. So Thomas Hobbes lived during the English Civil War, so he understandably acquired fears about the political state of his country. So he wrote his famed work, The Leviathan, about ethics as a possible solution to political and social strife, and as a foundation for his social contract theory. So Hobbes famously discusses the state of nature, of which he has an extremely pessimistic and cynical outlook, and he believes that the raw state of nature is anarchic and competitive in all things. He says, quote, "Life is solitary, poor, nasty, brutish, and short," end quote. So he naturally moves on to the possible solution for this horrid state of nature and it introduces the social contract. The social contract he proposes requires that individuals knowingly sacrifice unnecessary freedoms and luxuries to a sovereign authority in exchange for protection of necessities to survive, like food, shelter, and water. Absolute sovereignty is a large aspect to Hobbes's social contract theory, but it can also be divisive. The theory certainly creates a need for a centralized, all-powerful government, and Hobbes supports the notion of absolute sovereignty because the goal would ideally be to ensure that society does not revert to the state of nature he described earlier. However, a radical view of government like Hobbes's can be dangerous in practice because too much power can make people misuse that power to the detriment of other people. So, on the other hand, John Locke's take on the social contract theory differs from Hobbes's in several ways, starting with the view of nature. Locke sees the state of nature as not nearly as hopeless as Hobbes believes it is, and Locke recognizes that the individual rights of humans like life, liberty, and property are what matters the most, and those need to be preserved. So under Locke's formation of social contracts, one must knowingly enter a contract with the aim to maintain and protect their individual natural rights. He also believes the government's primary duty is to safeguard those rights. And unlike Hobbes's support of absolute sovereignty, Locke supports the people's right to rebellion if the government fails to do its job of protecting the people's rights. So Locke promotes limited government and believes people should have rights the government cannot affect. Sure, many people, including Hobbes, would undoubtedly object to Locke's more liberal beliefs around government and human rights because they possibly do not allow enough room for governmental authority to keep a society in order. If there could be a sweet spot between Hobbes's absolute sovereignty, which does not allow enough freedom and individuality, and Locke's limited government, there would be a balance between two extreme authorities where people can be individual and coexist with the government's authority. There is another theory outside of social contracts that relates, which is ethical egoism. Ethical egoism is the belief that we base what is morally right or wrong on our self-interest. Ethical egoism also says that you act immorally when you do not try to promote your well-being. And Hobbes believes that morality is dependent on self-interest, for motivation, but a concern with both Hobbes's theories and ethical egoism is that almost anything could be justified under the guise of doing it out of self-interest. And some object with Hobbes's theory that morality is meaningless when you emphasize self-interest because the root cause and motivation for morality is in conflict with what morality is supposed to help us do, which should help us learn how to be good people and treat other people and not just serve our own self-interest. But Hobbes disagrees with this. So this objection is warranted. So the social contract theory can drastically differ depending on the thinkers presenting their theories. Still, Hobbes and Locke offer two contrary points of view that draw attention to societal concerns about the importance of human rights and the government's role in all of it. Thank you.